anniversary. On September 16, 1982, Christian militia entered the Sabra and Shatila refugee camps in Beirut. Over 2 days, they slaughtered hundreds of people. After more than 20 years, the memories are still devastating. The CBC's Nala Ayad reports from her new base in Beirut.
Beneath the earth here lies a single grave for hundreds of the dead. 22 years after the slaughter, people still gather once a year to remember those who died. Adnan al-Muqdad does that on most days. He lost 27 members of his family in the Sabra and Shatila massacre, including his parents and a brother. He consoles himself by tending to the communal resting place. We have to remember, he says. If we didn't, we'd have left the place, because leaving would allow you to forget. People here say they've long been forgotten. While the city of Beirut has repaired many of the scars of the war 2 decades ago, on the city's doorstep, the Palestinian refugee camps of Sabra and Shatila have in many ways been frozen in time. 20 years after they were nearly wiped out, the camps are once again bustling with life. But with the restrictions on building and poor access to health and municipal services, life is little better than it was back then. Still, the mix of Palestinians, Lebanese, and Syrians here manages to survive. The past, they say, lingers on. Seared in their minds is this: the sight of bodies of men, women, and children left in the streets to rot. It was a 2-day killing spree of Palestinian and Lebanese at the hands of Christian militiamen avenging the murder of then leader and president-elect Bashir Gemayel. A shocking punctuation to what was already a well-worn cycle of Lebanon's internal violence. But it also happened at the height of the Israeli army's invasion of Lebanon. And many in the camps and outside say it was done with its blessing, even with its help. The Israeli defense minister at the time was Ariel Sharon. An Israeli investigation into the massacre found in 1983 that he was indirectly but personally responsible as the man in charge at the time. He resigned his post and years later became prime minister. He's always denounced the massacre as a terrible tragedy, but says he wasn't responsible. But survivors here still want Sharon to be prosecuted. Hamad Shams was 17 when he too was lined up against the wall and shot. They found him buried alive under the bodies of his father and brother. Since then, a whole new generation has been raised on such stories here. Once a year, those stories are told to another set of visiting strangers: international human rights activists, local leaders, and journalists. Once a year, they have no choice but to remember. The rest of the time, the camps slumber on, still homes to the poor and the stateless, people whose only wish now is to escape the shadows of the past and from a life of endless poverty. Nala Ayad, CBC News in the Shatila refugee camp.